Hello and welcome to Washington Exec's video series. I'm Amanda Ziadeh with Washington Exec, and with me today is Josh Wilson. He's a Senior Vice President of Services and Technology for LMI. Thank you so much for joining me today, Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Of course. So we're here to discuss the shift from intellectual property value to time to value for professional services firms. So Josh, I want to start by asking if you can explain to us what this means and why it's true.
Yeah, when I joined this industry, especially on the professional services kind of digitally focused side of the business many years ago, it was all about how do we generate our competitive edge. And when we talk about our competitive edge, it's in regards to the intellectual property we have around our ideas and our solutions. And we spent a lot of money and time and internally and talking to in-house legal teams to be able to make sure that what we were developing on our dime versus our customers' dime, so that we could protect our interests from an intellectual property and ownership standpoint. And that way, you couldn't have this solution or deliver around this problem set if you didn't have our IP. And industry thought about that as our moat. But what we mean by that today is there's things going on in the marketplace that have created a shift on that front. To where it's really hard to go in with, kind of holding your customers prisoner from an IP standpoint if you're a management consulting firm. And a lot of those changes center around this new reality of the venture capital community and just the sheer amount of money that they're spending. 2020 alone, $130 billion spent by venture capital on different various bets, most of which are digitally centric. And most of which are focused on low solutions. So what I mean by that is solutions that, don't require somebody with hardcore coding skills to be able to leverage or take advantage of, like AWS, Azure, ServiceNow, et cetera, right? And then if you compare that and you look at NASA and DARPA's entire budgets and you combine them, they're sitting around 25 billion, 130 billion, 25 billion. So that's generated new realities, right? Those new realities are the government and probably GovCon integrators aren't going to invent the next new proprietary digital solution. They're probably going to be configuring solutions around different solution sets. A lot of that innovation may come from outside. So thus, if that is the new reality, is our customers are seeking solutions that do have a commercial footprint so they don't have to worry about them becoming stale over time, then now the game has changed, right? Now you better be tied into the venture capital community. You better be aware of these technologies. And now your customers are really looking toward not your IP, but how quickly can you take advantage and harness all this innovation to deliver value around their problem sets? In other words, time to value. And that's the shift that we're referring to.
That makes sense. And so what has LMI done to address this new reality from an organizational, cultural, technological, or people perspective?
It's been quite the journey over the last, I would say, 4 years. 4 years ago, we really looked at ourselves and said, the game has shifted. How do we remain relevant? How do we bring the best ideas to our customers? And I'll start with a cultural perspective. It came with the idea, wow, it's okay that not all the best ideas come from LMI. There's a big world out there. What if we could just be this very porous organization that our customers could come to, and that wasn't obsessed with the best ideas coming from us, but was obsessed with the best ideas getting to them, right? And that seems like a very simple thing, but it's really profound in some ways if you're literal around it, right? And so how we literally organized around that is, from a culture perspective, we communicated that to our employees, but you can't just communicate it to them. You have to enable it, right? So we deconstructed our LMI Research Institute and CTO organization and hit the start over button. It is historically was a research institute. Employees could come forward with ideas that they wanted to research, so we could go back to a customer and say, we thought really hard about this. Here's how we would solve that problem. But today what we've done is, and you can look at some of the changes we've made to our board for different board members who come from the venture capital community. We are now part of ecosystems in the startup community where we've then even made bets. We've invested in startups that we think could change the world in regards to climate change, like TCS, the climate service. We've then also just struck partnerships with companies that we think are doing very unique things that could benefit scaling data operations, but in a secure and safe way, like Amuta. We have a much stronger strategic alliances thing where we're partnering with companies like Calibra, Databricks, ServiceNow, Tableau, Tammer, et cetera. These are all companies that have great commercial footprints and are delivering unique solutions to our customers. But now we have these partnerships, and then we have a dedicated accelerator with a director of innovation and a dedicated director who runs our academic partnerships. So when you come to LMI with a problem, any employee can source that problem back to our CTO organization. And the next meeting you'll at, it's not uncommon for an academic partner to be sitting in that room, somebody from the startup community, research fellows from LMI, because of this obsession with getting to the right answer, not who comes up with the right answer. And secondly, reflecting back on the point earlier about how the venture capital community is really driving a lot of innovation around low-code platforms, is we are deliberately recognizing that reality back at LMI, and that this legacy thinking of, over here we have a digital group, and when it's time to do development, we hand it to them. We're big believers in the future that those groups will become smaller and smaller over time, and what you'll see is, today we have logistics, right? But it's really it's now digital logistics, right? We've raised the whole digital IQ of the entire organization, where we're trying to decentralize the ownership of IT delivery, right? And recognizing this reality of where the world is going, and organizing our functional service lines and enabling them to move forward on that path. Leveraging these partnerships and these low-code platforms that allow them to then quickly, rapidly take advantage of their functional knowledge around these distinct business processes and deliver digital solutions without necessarily having to wait for the developers to come in and catch up. And that way they're able to move with the pace of need, which is a big differentiator for us, and a big part of why I think we've had a lot of success over the last few years and from a growth perspective.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for helping us explain the time to value approach a little bit better and how LMI is addressing these changes. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you. Appreciate your time, Amanda.